And clear of the closing doors, please.
What up, son? What up? Grind&Pivot, Queens, New York, Louis Max in the house today. We got a real one from one of my favorite, and I say quote unquote MTV darling bands, but really the pride of New Jersey. You might not know them, but I do. And definitely a lot of people out there definitely listen to us do. The band is Trixter, and we have PJ Farley, who is the bass player, singer, and in his own right, a real good writer and singer. PJ Farley, how you doing, my brother?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well.
Excellent. Good to see you. Good to see you. So how you making out in the last couple of years with this craziness that we're going through?
Trucking along like everyone else. Actually, I just got over my second round of COVID, so I have a lingering tickle cough. And but it's funny. I was one of the Lone Rangers last year in the thick of the pandemic. I was still out there touring and, kind of sneaking into gigs and, getting them in, and I was fine. I got COVID last year around Christmas time when I was home doing nothing. All the gigs were done. I toured for 6 months, throughout that whole thing last year. And then I toured all this past year. And I got home. I did Europe. I did, the States. I mean, I did it all. And I was home for all of January up to like the first week of February, just home. And sure enough, I got it again. Very much. I double vaccinated and whatnot. So if that helped, I think, it was pretty tolerable. This time around, I got that little cough, which will rear its ugly head. So that's a little bit of annoying residual. But other than that, I'm strong like bull.
Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear. So let's go back a little bit since we'll start with some of the Trixter days. I'd love to do that. The band was formed, I guess, by Steve Brown, correct? And you came in actually right not necessarily the first beginning, but in a couple of years after, and replaced Dougie C. What were you doing at that time, and how did you get that gig?
I was playing the same places Trixter was playing, and we were playing on the same nights. So we knew each other. And Trixter at that point I thought it was 14 years old, and they weren't that much older. And they had already had a good following because like the China Club, which was our main venue, was
what was that, like in Hillsdale, I think? I remember Hillsdale, something like that.
It's not far from Paramus. So they had that whole scene following them. And, that the word of mouth thing, when you can bring a lot of people to a club, it catches on. So then that trickled over to, was it Butterfields and LOUIE or something? And then Studio One, and then over and through Staten Island, and it just caught on. And, we really the band had a buzz even when I joined, when I was 14, 15 years old. And it was partly because of that. They were doing the all ages clubs close to Paramus in the circling area, and or in that radius, I should say. And, people go where people are. So it just came time. Steve, wanted to get a different face on the bass, so to speak. And being that we knew each other and, we'd seen each other play many times over, he just said that, he saw, I think we were doing Battle of the Bands at Lemoore in Brooklyn. My band Prisoner was playing with Trixter, and, he was like, that's the guy. That's the guy.
So he went after you basically and said, let's get it. Do you remember auditioning actually? Because back in the day, the rehearsal studio was like a big deal. Did they rehearse in a rehearsal studio, or someone's house? What was that like?
No, it wasn't an audition. In fact, I didn't jump at it to begin with, honestly, because the band I was in wasn't that big of a fan of Trixter. And so for me, it was like, and I was like 14, I think. And all the guys in my band were like 21, 22, 23. So I was like, all right, here's a good opportunity because it is a great band. They're drawing people. how do I break it to these guys who really don't like them? I'm kind of joining the enemy. So I told Steve when he called, I'm like, give me a couple of days to think about it, and then sure enough, I was young, but I was wise. So I joined, and no, we just got right into it. There was like I said, he'd seen me play a number of times already. More importantly, I fit the suit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back then you had to have the whole package as well.
Yeah, it's a rock band. We weren't, going for shred.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, so you joined the band, and take us through basically getting the first deal and what you remember about all of a sudden things starting to move, to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, well, to kind of summarize it, I joined the band, kind of plucked me into the mix right there, and then off we go. The band just starts, really kicking ass, and we got our managers soon after I joined the band, and it wasn't long after that. It was like maybe a year or so after that, we started doing showcasing, and we got our deal, and it really could just kind of we started knocking the dominoes down. It was like management, deal, tour, boom, MTV.
Right. Okay, cool. So hang on 1 second. Yeah.
Put it this way. Any musician at that time, if you had said, how do you want it to go? They'd go just like this. And that's how it went for us.
That's very cool. Who was the manager? Was it local? Was it someone known?
These two guys, we were their first and only band. They were friends of Peter Mensch from Q Prime Management, who was the biggest rock management company.
Huge.
Face of the earth. At that time they were managing Def Leppard, Metallica, Queensryche, Tesla, Dokken. And he was very instrumental in getting us seen by all these labels, because he believed in us and believed in our managers who they were friends with. So he wanted to help and kind of mentor them. And so Peter Mensch played a big part in us getting a record deal. So it was, the stars just aligned, man. I mean, we did have something special. We were a great live band. Were we young? Yes. I mean, but nobody meant it more than we did. I mean, we were definitely, there for the ass kicking.
Right. I think being young was a good thing, really, especially for,
Absolutely.
Rock and roll back then, for sure. I mean, no matter how much you say it's a young man's game, that.
No, we had the blinders on. We didn't have, drugs and alcohol in the way, or, bills and all that stuff. It was all about one thing, hyper focused and 100% able to be hyper focused without anything weighing us down. That was the true benefit of it being us being so young. Nothing weighing us down or stopping us. And we were at that young, cocky age where we were like, fuck, this is going to happen,
Right. So talk about the process of some of the, let's go musically a little bit. You had Steve was basically writing most of the songs. Was that how it went? Take us through like how, you guys rehearsed, how you got your songs together. And then we'll pick maybe a couple of songs out of the, I have 3 songs that I'll pick for you. And maybe you'll tell me kind of how they came about, inspiration, not from necessarily writing point of view, unless but take us through the beginning of like, where these songs came in, for instance.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Most of the 90% of the songs on the first record were written by the time I got into the band, with the exception of like Give It To Me Good, On, and Surrender. One in a Million wasn't written yet, but let's say a good 75% maybe.
And they're playing them, and they're playing them out already.
Stuff like Only Young Ones, Ride the Whip. Well, I guess, maybe I overestimated. Maybe it was half and half. But and Steve was just very focused on songwriting. When I joined the band, they had a ton of songs already, a lot of stuff that didn't even make the first record. And he was just always writing. He's always home and writing. And it was after I joined the band, songs like One in a Million, Bad Girl, Line of Fire came in to play that he'd written. And it was a really prolific time for the band too, because we would rehearse in his house, after school, and gig on the weekend. So it was just all band, all 24/7.
That's great. So rehearsing wise, he'd bring the song in, basically you guys, he'd show you the changes, he'd kind of run through it and everybody would kind of put it together, and that was the magic. Was there some magic there, or was it, really him kind of, dictating a lot of the parts? How did that work? Tell everybody that.
He would, and a lot of the stuff, sometimes he'd have like a 4-track recorder, so he would put the rough demo down, and, then we would just kind of take it from there and play through it until the song really just kind of took shape. Some of the stuff was really self-explanatory to begin with. Some other songs, we could say, hey, maybe this bridge needs this, or, let's do this at the end, here and there. But I mean, he had a pretty good grasp on the songs before he, brought them to us this way. There wasn't a lot of kind of lingering and beating around and, just trying to get too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. But I mean, if somebody had something to contribute, I mean, the door was open for sure.
Right. So it was kind of democracy once everything kind of got together. You guys were just kind of riding the wave a little bit. So One in a Million. Let's just pick. I got couple of songs here. Surrender was one of them. One in a Million's one, another one, and Give It to Me Good is the other, obviously. So One in a Million. He brought that in. You guys heard it. Did you know right away? How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, that was one that he brought in kind of as we were just starting to showcase. And I think we did it for the first time at a showcase. And yeah, I mean, the song is hooky from beginning to end. So we knew that was a great song. And that's why we were so eager to get it right into the showcase. I remember we rehearsed it a couple of times before. I forget what label we were showcasing for, but we rehearsed it and then we played it for him that day. Cool.
You remember recording it? You remember the session to record it? What that was like?
It was, that whole time in LA was a lot of the way that song came about. Actually, he wrote it and not much changed from it, but we did spend a lot of time in pre-production, right? I remember with it. And it kind of didn't really need as much effort as it got. A lot of the songs actually didn't. Yeah, I mean, you circle the stuff and, you want it to be the best, it can be. And, Give It to Me Good. Give It to Me Good was the same thing. He did that song all on a 4-track demo, and it was the last song he wrote. And that was like a no-brainer. All those songs, One in a Million, Give It to Me Good, and Surrender was kind of a mixed bag of. It was a song that it was a ballad that he had, and then our producers kind of chimed in and made it into something a little bit different. Right. I forget the name of the original. That was Bill Ray, right? That was Ray, right? Yeah. Did they play a huge part in making that record, formulate the whole sound and really, really mold it with you guys? What was that? Might be a good idea to talk about how they played a part, because they get some credits as well, right? Yeah, I mean, they definitely, getting back to the original questions, they would sit and we would pick apart every song. So the whole pre-production was really long because, and as producers, they want to get their hands on the songwriting. And that was kind of their goal. Like I said, a lot of those songs were done as is until they go, but maybe we change this word here or there and we can kind of get our claws on it. Now my name is on it, So a lot of that happened, and, we were young, so we kind of went along with it. But A lot of it was unnecessary. You know, 1 in a million, give it to me good, stuff like that. And, you know, Surrender, back to Surrender. Again, that was a song that we had. And Bill, he's like, I think we can change it, you know, and make the chorus this. So the chorus became a little bit different. I think I'll think of the original title. But that was like the one song that was kind of had the most effort into it. It almost felt a little forced. You know, that was the one song in the record that kind of felt like they're kind of beating this one up. Like what Steve had written already was great. And I think they really just kind of wanted to they knew it was the ballad. So like, this is going to be the big one. We want our names on this one. And I remember just kind of waiting, you know, for it to be done. And I'm like, it's taking a long time. It's really beating this one up to get their hooks in it. I mean, it turned out to be a great song, but I never really had the same connection with the song that, say, people who hear the song do. I mean, I know it's a great hook, so I get it. I get why people like it, but I know that it was a little forced.
Interesting. You know? Good tidbit there. That's pretty cool. So you became kind of like the darlings of MTV. You know, MTV was really cranking back then. Give It To Me Good, I think, was number 1 in a million, the same. So what was it like, you know, as a young kid, you know, being on MTV when MTV was like so cool, when it was cool back then?
Well, it was very fucking cool. The ironic thing about it is, though, when we finally got on MTV, we were on tour. So we really only got to see it and experience that, you know, oh my God, I'm on TV. You know, on the little short breaks, we came home, like Christmas and stuff, we'd be home. But believe me, I got to gauge how much we were played, because if I was home for 3 days, I saw our video every hour. I was like, oh my God. So It was a good thing.
Yeah. So you were on tour. I mean, do you remember like one of the first times you guys were away together, and you know, you see this on the TV and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think actually the first time I saw it on MTV was right before we went on tour, and it was like a Saturday night. Headbangers Ball was on. I was sleeping with TV on. I woke up and it was on. I was like, holy shit. The first time I saw it. Either that or it was the second time. Like, I think the first time I knew it was going to be on, because like Headbangers Ball is going to try it, you know, see if it works. And then maybe this was the second week, and I woke up and, you know, being the young kid I was sleeping on Saturday night during Headbangers Ball. My video was on.
That's very cool. So you guys opened for like a ton of bands. I mean, you really worked hard. You went on tour: Striper, Dokken, Poison, Scorpions, Kiss. Really working hard. Which tour, if you remember, through the fog, and which tour was the most fun? And could you share a classic story that might not get you or too many people in trouble from back then?
Might not be an interesting story then.
Or tell us something good that will get. Who cares in 2022?
I mean, it's a hard question, because literally every tour we did was amazing. I mean, anyone who's seen any interviews with any of us knows we always say the Warrant tour was definitely our most fun on a day-to-day basis. It was Warrant, Trixter, Firehouse, and we were all kind of peaking at the same time. And Summer tour, it was just, we were all just really good friends, happy to be there, selling out. It was a magical time. I mean, but then you take that and then you go, oh, but you know what? Playing the Meadowlands Arena for the first time and getting our gold records, opening for the Scorpions, that was a magical time too. You know, getting to open for Kiss and play the Meadowlands and all these arenas with Kiss, that was a magical thing for us, being such Kiss fans. And or just any tour, the Striper tour, the Don Dock tour, the Poison tour. I mean, that was our first arena tour. We had such appreciation for every opportunity that we had. It was, if it was one thing we were not ungrateful. Every step of the way, we were happy and appreciative of everything that we were given.
Cool. Spring break was a new thing too back then as well. And you guys were kind of part of it. Who came up with that blood, sweat, and beers?
I don't know. I think
do you know?
That was a warrant camp. So that was that was the tour poster. Made perfect sense.
Yeah, no, it's cool, actually. It's pretty good. It is pretty good. The Here album, I kind of liked the record a lot, but it was a tough call since grunge was kind of coming in at the time. But what do you remember about that?
It obviously came out at the worst time ever. And I came up with the title for the record, and I swear I jinxed it by calling it Here, because I say it's the record nobody ever heard. But we took too much downtime in between records, and I think that was because we waited for our producer, Jim Barton. We waited too long. I think we should have gone another route than miss our window, because although we feel we made a great record, I think we still would have made a great record with someone else in a quicker time window, because we did, like I said, Steve and I were doing all the demos in the back lounge of the bus on the Warrant tour in 91. So when we got off the road, a majority of the stuff had been written and kind of mapped out. So we went into pre-production for a couple months as we were waiting for Jim Barton. He's like, "Oh, I'll be done in 2 months." Then that turned into 3 months and 4 months. And I mean, we really took way too long doing that. So we kind of missed any sort of window that would have snuck that record in, having it come out in the worst time possible. And I remember, although we got the Kiss tour on that record, we went to radio the week we started that tour, and we were just getting, the closed doors every day. No ads. It was like the end was near. I mean, and, in hindsight, it was a great place to kind of see the end of the tunnel, because we were on tour with Kiss, which was, very exciting for us. But sideline that, our record was tanking.
Right.
So it was bittersweet, and nothing we could do about it. I mean, even if we came out a year before, we still would have had a tough time. I mean, it's just the way the ball bounces. I mean, we had a great run, and people always say, "Oh, if you guys came out a couple of years earlier, you've been huge." It's like, maybe, but I always say, especially if they come to our gigs, and I always say, you know what, that might be the case, but it doesn't change the fact that I'd still be right here, right now, talking to you about it.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Maybe
you're right.
A couple extra bucks in my pocket, probably not, but I'd still be right here doing the same thing, because look at the bands who were on the bill tonight. I'm playing with Warrant or Dokken. We all did the same thing, and they were much bigger than us. We're all in the same place tonight,
Yeah. I don't think, I have to agree with you. I don't know if it would have made that much of a difference, but it would have just been you would have been in the game. You would have been in the game again, playing maybe just at maybe in the playoffs, as opposed to, being, maybe out of the playoffs. I guess something like that, as sports.
A trap door in Cloud 9 was starting to creep open, and it was going to get it any moment.
Coming no matter what. There's only one place to go. That is true. That is true. So, you mentioned something about the cake, finances. How'd you guys do back then? Were you smart enough to get what something out of it? And how long did it really carry you? You guys are still young. So what was financially, what was it like? Could you give us an idea?
It was, we made money off of live performance and merchandising and everything like that. We had big record, recording budgets. So, record sales wasn't a factor and all that. But, nobody was a millionaire. We didn't make our perception was much bigger than our reality, put it that way. But, we made money to sustain ourselves for a good couple of years. But there would have been, nobody was retiring by any stretch,
Gotcha.
But for a couple of young kids, we did pretty good for a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. How about, so after it kind of died down, what was the strategy for, I guess let's talk about the band and then we'll definitely get into your life as well. But what was the strategy like?
As the band was kind of, reading the writing on the wall.
Correct.
Yeah. I think we finally just realized that let's take it out back and let's park it, put it back in the garage. And, we know what's happening here. We're not even going to toy with the idea of trying to get a record deal. And, it's not our time. It's time to do something else. We're all young enough to where we still full of piss and vinegar, weren't bitter. We're, just time to do something else. So Steve and I just continued writing and recording, and we started and put together a number of bands after Trixter. We went right from Trixter and then, stayed in the studio and just, started a band called Throwing Rocks, which turned into a band called Soaked, which turned into a band called 40 Foot Ringo, which turned into a band called Stereo Fallout, and then I joined a band called Raw that was on Universal Records. And that kind of brought me back into the major league, major label game in an active rock kind of world in 2002. And then I was doing that and also the band with Steve. And, the whole time we just kept playing. Steve and I just kept playing and writing, making music. It's really all we knew how to do. Still do.
Cool. Excellent. One footnote I had a note that I wanted to bring up. Did you play, do you remember playing with Edgar Winter on that track on One More Time?
Yeah. And actually,
what was that like? What was that like?
I remember me and my manager, we were in LA. We had to go pick him up at his house. He had this little apartment off of Wilshire Boulevard, I think. And I was like, wow, it's mind blowing, I mean, the guy's a legend, and, visually too, he's an albino. It's kind of, my manager's like, don't stare at him, but I was like, all right. But yeah, that was great. I mean, that was, to play with somebody like that is definitely noteworthy for sure.
Sounds cool. So let's go back a little bit. You growing up, tell us about family, how you got the music bug, and what were you like in school, and what were your major influences when you first started out?
I got into music. I mean, I think my first kind of musical revelation was the Bay City Rollers, and then right after that was Kiss. And then I was gone from there. That was it. Anything even remotely close, I was in. Kiss, Iron Maiden, Sabbath, Motley, you name it. There, I was a rock and roll heavy metal kid from, as long as I can remember. And I started out playing drums, banging away on pots and pans, and I got a drum set. And, then when I was 11, I wanted to start a band with my friends in school, and everybody played guitar and drums and singers. Nobody wanted to be a bass player. So I'm like, all right, well, screw it. I'll be a bass player then. I'll play bass. And it turns out it was the best decision I ever made.
How'd you learn? Did you learn how to everything by ear, or you took some lessons?
I put on Iron Maiden records and Sabbath and Aerosmith and stuff, and I wanted to play the songs. I just wanted to play songs. So, I kind of just worked my ear and trained my ear to go, what is that? That sound right? And I learned that skill of learning by ear. And that's how I played a large majority of the beginning of my, career, was just playing songs. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Gotcha. Any music in your family?
Yeah, my brother played a little bit, but yeah, he played guitar. He had one in the house. That's why I would mess around on it. But nothing, nobody was, musically, professionally musical or anything like that. It was, I kind of took it and ran with it myself.
Gotcha. Cool. School, good student, bad student, follower, leader.
I was tolerable as a student. I got by. I was a pretty good student. I was I wasn't a bad kid. I was a little bit of a class clown. That got me in trouble every once in a while. But, I wasn't the kind that cut school and do all that stuff. I mean, did I? Once or twice, but for the most part, I kind of enjoyed school. I had friends there, and it was a good thing for me. I didn't have a problem with it. And plus, I was in a band when I was in school, so I was kind of a cool kid. I had a very unusual childhood, being that I was in a band so young.
So, talking about that, so you've been doing a lot of writing as well your whole life. But you're on the road quite a bit. How has the road taken its toll on you?
How about this? I'll stand up, and when you hear me grunt, that's the gauge right there. But yeah, it takes. It takes its toll in the sense that, now that I'm older, I have a family, there's that aspect. Whereas for a large majority of my touring, I started young. I was just out on the road with nothing else. I was just my friends, as I get older, then you have a family. I got kids the last 10 years, and, that changes, a little bit, in the sense that it's harder to leave home. Once I'm out on the road, I'm good. And, God bless FaceTime and all that stuff and cell phones. I'm not going to pull the bus over to find a payphone and, or go a whole day without talking to my family or anything like that. So there's a lot of connection there. It makes it a lot easier. But I love the road. I've been doing it all of my life. I'm really used to it. It's natural for me. It's something I need to do. And so it doesn't take its toll in I guess a negative sense. It's just, sometimes if you miss something that goes on in school or something like that, you're like, all right, I'm going to miss some stuff.
Right.
That's the deal I signed years ago.
Right. Okay. That's fair. Yeah. And yeah, that's exactly what I was asking, really, what it's like more now, obviously, with all the social media and everything, you could keep in touch much, much easier. But like you said, it's your gig, and it's kind of what you signed up for.
Guys that are like us who've been doing it basically all of our lives, we have this built-in mechanism. We know how to adapt, and we know how to understand that, okay, these are the things I'm going to miss while I'm away. Okay, that's I have to deal with that, and I have my ways, of dealing with that. That's that's the price, and there is a price. Yes, I get to do what I love, but there's a price.
That's exactly what I was asking. Exactly. Yeah. So, you've been affiliated and working with a lot of different bands over the last, years. Recently, Eric Martin, Fozzy. How'd you get hooked up with these guys? I mean, obviously you've been doing it for so long. I know you're going to, a ton of people, blah, 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 but give us some pinpointed real connections, because you're obviously, in with these guys.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I mean, I've every couple of years, somebody else new kind of comes into my life. It's like, oh, and we play with this person now. Like whether it started like with Raw, I mean, 2002, off I go to tour with, every band in the active rock world that was current at that point, and a band I still play with to this day. And, then 2009, I joined Lita Ford's band. Was with her for about 3.5 years. And, then after that, a couple of years later, Eric Martin calls, and now Eric, we've known since like 91, 92. So we'd been friends for a long time. But the way this we started playing together was he had a tour booked of Japan, just going over solo, him doing his solo material and some rare Mr. Big songs and stuff. And he needed a band. So he called Steve and I to kind of be his backup band. And, you know, Trixter had a pretty good following in Japan. And when the promoters got wind that it was us, you know, and Eric was always a big Trixter fan, loved Trixter. He's one of our biggest supporters. So he suggested, you know, let's do some Trixter stuff too. So we kind of planted the seed and it went great. So we wound up doing it in the States. And then that branched off to me and him doing all these acoustic shows, you know, when we don't do the full band stuff. And, you know, the thing with me playing with Fozzy, you know, I've known Chris for probably almost going on 15 years now. And he called me back when we were quarantined, and he said, "Hey, you like 80s Kiss?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." You know, some of it. No. And he goes, "I'm doing a thing with Luke Bryan's drummer and Joe from Classic 78. We're going to do this, you know, one of those split screen videos, you know." And that was like when I think there were only one or two of them, and maybe Charlie Benante had done one, you know, and people were just starting to do them. So we kind of put that band together, Quarantine with a K, where now it's this 80s Bruce Kulick era Kiss tribute band, you know. And it was just, you know, we recorded some songs, we did the videos, and then we started making real videos, and then we got a top 25 single with one, and, you know, we're about to release another one. So it became a band, you know. So that all happened where Chris and I had a musical relationship as of, you know, the pandemic. And then Fozzy had some touring to do during the pandemic too. And their bass player at the time, he didn't want to travel. He didn't want to be he didn't want to leave home. So Chris was like, "I know the guy." So I'm like, "Sign me up."
Yeah, let's go. I'm ready. Yeah. So what's it like working with Chris? I'm sure a lot of people listening, you know, like to hear, you know, what it's like being with him. Quite a character.
Oh yeah, he's a character. You know, he is he's got to be the hardest working guy I know. And I'm a pretty hard worker. I have people tell me I'm crazy a lot. Like, "What are you doing? You're in this band, you're in that band. You're going from, you know, you play North America one day, South America the next day. It's like you're all over the place." So I've done some crazy stuff in my life. And when I hang out with him, I'm like, he's crazy. You know, but he phones in nothing. You know, he's a very passionate guy. And as much as he's got his hands in, he's full on. He's all in with everything he does. And it's really admirable. And it's inspiring to watch. And yeah, he loves to have fun, but he cares about everything that he has his hands in, you know, hence this little Kiss tribute band, you know, during quarantine. You know, all of a sudden we have, you know, a top 25 single on the radio. You know, it's like that would have never happened with anyone else, you know. But he's like, "Screw that, putting a team on it, and this thing's gonna be on the radio." You know, we're doing full-fledged videos and, you know, doing shows, and it's like, you know, everything he touches, it's got to be go big or go home, I say.
Excellent. So if I had to ask you, what would be the most pivotal moment that changed everything for you? What would you say if there's one or two moments in your life as a musician?
Musically speaking, I mean, as far as, changed my life in which way?
Well, I mean, basically, you know, this is a fork in the road. Obviously, getting the, you know, the Trixter thing that's a no-brainer, but that's not, you know, let's strip a little layers off a little bit, you know, fork in the road, maybe where you might have gone one way or gone another.
Yeah. I mean, there was a period there where I was just home gigging locally and local like cover bands and stuff, you know, and Steve and I were trying to get whatever the band was at the time, a record deal and stuff. And it didn't look I mean, nothing was really happening, stuff was almost happening. And there was a lot of that, a lot of near misses, and just enough to keep us going, and so there was a point there where it was kind of like, who knows, maybe it ain't supposed to be a lifer kind of situation, maybe, but every time that thought would creep up, I'd be like, I can't do it. I can't, nah, there's no way I'm taking that left turn. Can't do it. And I think really that's the thing that has brought all these other awesome opportunities to me, where some signs would go, you know what, maybe this is not gonna, pan out past this Trixter thing that you had. And, I would always say, bullshit. I know what I got. I got some shit. I'm still to this day full of piss and vinegar. I go kick some ass. I got a lot of ass kicking left in me. And on a subconscious level, I think that puts that energy out there, which is why I've gotten so many calls, play with great people and continue to. I appreciate it and I want it. I love playing with different people and constantly challenging myself and growing as a musician. And then sidelined by that, writing and recording my own solo records, creating that avenue for myself, just constantly evolving, not settling and not letting a little stagnant patch kind of wear me down or, let the negativity creep in.
Exactly. So speaking of which, your own stuff, love it. And we were talking before we started recording about it. I love, there's a couple songs I've been listening to the last couple of days since I knew you were coming on. I, besides doing just regular BS research for that, I started listening, to your stuff. And I fell in love with a lot of stuff. I mean, like I told you earlier, it kind of brought me back to a point in time, not musically, but emotionally. It's still sun out, driving in the car or hanging out, kind of like I told you this, being in love. It just gave, I don't know what it was. It just became a feeling for me. And, the songs like, for instance, go ahead. What's that?
It got you in the feels.
It got me. It really did, man. And Wait and Fade. Great song.
Thank you.
And there were a couple actually, Let It Rain, Wait and Fade, and You'd Stick It Out. Those three songs, just off the top, I love, for some reason I love them, but Wait and Fade was, I thought, really, really cool. And talk about some of your stuff on your own, how you were able to, put it together, who you worked with, and also, are you out there pushing it a little bit? What's your take on what's going on out there with it?
I'll start backwards. Out there pushing it. Yes, I'd say, ironically, my first record came out 2016 and I did a little bit of touring on that. Not a lot. Because it is tough out there on the road. And for someone like myself to bring a band out and try to make it financially feasible for everybody, it's a tough thing to do, to sustain it. I can go out for short spurts and stuff. So it's a little bit of a, labor of love. Then my second record came out in 2020, last year.
Right, that was Accent to Change, right? Accent to Change.
Yeah, September of last year.
Okay.
And right in the middle of the pandemic, so wasn't really going, anywhere with that in the sense of putting a band together and touring. I was touring all last year with Eric Martin doing the acoustic shows because they fit into the model of the social distance, sit 6 feet apart, capacity issues and whatnot. So we were able to do that all last year. And I do sing some of my songs when I play with him. So I am keeping it alive and pushing it when we play. So that's kind of cool that I get to do that, because I don't really have time to just go out and do solo shows, because I got Fozzy, I got Eric acoustic shows. I got Eric with the full band with Steve and Joey Quesada. I have Ra. I have a fun 80s tribute band called Rubik's Cube out of New York that Steve and I play in. That's basically a national act. So I'm running 5 touring bands as it is. So it's tough for me to go, you know what, month of October, I'm going to just go out and do solo touring. It's like, I really can't do that, but cool that when I do play with Eric, and that's Steve and I have done a couple of acoustic Trixter shows, I get to do some of my songs. So that feeds that a little bit, which is kind of cool. And I get to, I bring the CDs and sell the CDs out there and just push it.
Right. What's it like playing in an all-out Rubik's Cube cover band? What's it really like? Tell everybody. Honestly,
it's amazing to see how much people love it. Honestly, it's amazing to see how many people come out for it. It's like, I remember thinking when I joined the band a good couple of years ago, we were playing the Gramercy Theater in New York, right in the heart of Manhattan, and it was sold out in advance, well in advance, and I just remember being there dressed in my 80s costume, looking like I did in 1987, going, wow, I haven't played to a sold out club in the middle of Manhattan in years. And in any other band right now, I don't think I could do that.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
It's amazing to me, but people love it. And it's such a great band. It's such a fun era that I get why people come out, but it does good business. And so it's definitely a trip for sure. High energy.
Right. It is a trip. Yeah. So the question I had for you really was more like from musically or musician speak. I know it's a trip. What would it be like, do you think, if you could say to yourself, well, I don't have any of these other things. I had no success with Trixter. I know Eric Martin. I know, all the affiliations, and you're at this point, playing in like an 80s, tribute type band, do you think, do you ever think about like what it might be like, for somebody doing that? Not to say it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying just older cats doing that. I always, I look at it and I go, how do you do it? How do you do it?
I understand how some people who haven't had the successes, in the other avenues, some of them are bitter, and, kind of just, it's a catch-22. It's like they love playing, but maybe not thrilled to be playing covers and whatnot. And I totally get that. And believe me, I've done my share of cover gigs and stuff where people they ask me to go, how do you you seem pretty okay with it, and I'm like, well, yeah, I also just flew in from, Chicago, and I played for, 6,000 people at a festival with, say, Ra or something, so I have that. So when I come home and I get to do that, or it's going right into a Rubik's gig, it's fun for me. I don't have that baggage that you're kind of getting at, I'm able to embrace it and just have fun with it, as opposed to go, oh.
Right. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. What the hell am I doing here? Right. I don't have that, it doesn't. Whereas, I could see some guys slugging along, just trying to keep the dream alive, but, on paper, it doesn't sound that glamorous.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've done my fair share of those gigs, but, again, it's like I say, the Yankees win, they have a lot of rings, and sometimes they don't win, and that's okay. They're all right. We'll get them next year, because got a handful of rings,
Yeah, for sure.
I've been a lucky guy, still am a very lucky guy. So I got no qualms putting a wig on, and
right. Well done. Well said. So any chance of getting the band back together for some sort of reunion?
There are people who definitely want to see the four of us back together. I totally get it. The only thing I could say is Steve and I are, full-time musicians, and we're out here working and trying to keep it alive and stuff. And I know, we speak to Pete, often, and he's got a life out in Arizona that is pretty much, pretty normalized, and he doesn't have much room for, traveling, and, he's not really playing much music. And so he can't really, he's told me, I can't commit. I cannot. I've asked him over the years, as recent as, last summer, I said, hey man, you want to, kind of do one or two shits and giggles? And he's like, I can't commit. There's nothing I can really, he doesn't have real motivation. He's got a life going on out there, and I totally get it. We totally get it.
Respected.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's, nobody's preventing it really. It's just a matter of life getting in the way, and that's it. So Steve and I just kind of go out and do what we do, and we're very busy. But yeah, I mean, I get people want to see the band, and totally understand that.
Yeah, totally. I guess if the right package came about, someone would get motivated.
I don't even know. I don't know. People always say, "Oh, yeah, I guess if there was the right price, he'd do it."
Yeah.
That's it. It's not. The money isn't a motivation. I mean, again, it's life, a normalized life. Once you get into that, it's, and just look like take the pandemic for instance. So many musicians I know, there had been two kind of results coming out of this pandemic. Some people like me, I had to keep going. This is what I do for a living. It's how I support my family. Yeah. Right. And this is what I do. I love it. So I kept going at any capacity. And a lot of musicians just couldn't wait to get back out there. Even if they weren't out there, they go, man, I can't wait to get back out there. Other people were like, I kind of don't miss it. This has been a really nice break. And I kind of went the other way. Some people go, I can't wait to go back out. And some people go, I kind of enjoy this. I've set up this other new thing where I've done, I have this new avenue of making money that I didn't know I could do. And now the thought of me hopping on a plane and, waking up in a motel, it's like, I don't know. They kind of get a taste of forced into a different reality. And although if you had asked them, why don't you take a couple of years off? They'd go, no fucking way. I'm a road dog.
Right. Yeah, right.
It had turned the lights on for some musicians, and once you get a different routine, that's it. The door's closed and you're like, I'm just going to bow out gracefully. Yeah. It's hard to just get back into it.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, really what it comes down to is life, Right. And also thinking about it too, you're doing it. It's your thing. It's your gig. It's always been your gig. That's what you do. I mean, other guys might have some other things happening, and we're talking about a lot of fucking years. We're not talking, we're not talking 10 years ago. We're talking 30 years ago that right. This has been going on. So this is really, a different head for a lot of people. I told you, you're not the same. You're just not the same. And I totally get that. So I have this thing at the end of the podcast. We do like the singles thing, quick hitters, quick questions. I got 3 questions for you. Okay. Best road food.
My go-to is Subway because it's consistent. It's a chain. It's not going to, 9 times out of 10, it ain't going to make me sick.
Guilty pleasure. Any guilty pleasure you have, like musically, or TV, watching something absolutely ridiculous. Give me something.
I watch Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Thank you. There you go. That's the answer I needed to hear, my brother.
Not afraid. And it's funny because me and my wife watched it from the beginning.
Me too.
And we lived in North Jersey in that Wayne, Franklin Lake circle, and to the point to where they would drive past the house and like they were like our neighbors. I'm like, it's kind of creepy, weird. It's like we're watching our neighbors because they're at our local supermarkets and our gyms and all that stuff. And then we moved down South Jersey, and now it seems every season is filmed down in South Jersey. I'm like, I still feel like we're spying on our neighbors. They follow us now. So
I love it. I love it, man. Good, great answer. Sports fan?
Yeah. I was a huge basketball fan, baseball fan. I'm a football fan, but I'm not a diehard. But I got to tell you, since I had kids, it worked out great because my New York teams, which I'm a fan of, started shitting the bed right at the time I started having kids. And once you have kids, there's no human beings on TV anymore. It's cartoon characters. So I wasn't able to watch sports anymore anyway. So, the Knicks, the Yanks, everybody started shitting the bed for years. So, starting to come around, rebuild now, and, kids are older now, and I can start to watch humans on TV, and I can start to, I'm thinking about getting back into, sports game.
What music business today? Any advice? Because it's funny. This brought me up again. I'm not kidding around when I said this sincerely. When I listened to your stuff, and I almost thought, forget about going back like I had said, but I had said, you know what? These songs are great. These songs, they're rock songs. They're good songs. It's like, why isn't there a young rock and roll band? I'm not going to say Trixter, but why is there not that? I'm sure there are 1,000, but how come we really don't know mainstream why the rock and roll band like we know it is out there? Could you have an answer for that? And just say, what's your advice to the kids out there, or what, because, want to make it, so forth and so on?
Honestly, I kind of question, excuse me, what is mainstream? Where do you go to find that mainstream band? Like MTV was the outlet. It was like, oh, this is Trixter's on TV. We're listening to Trixter now. Or, Stone Temple Pilots. That's the band I'm going to go listen to now. Pearl Jam, and so on. There was forums and, platforms to kind of say, this is really kind of what is happening now. So now we have YouTube and Spotify and, all these social media apps and everything. And, music is just out there. It's up to us to find it, which is great. But that's why there is no quote unquote mainstream, and bands don't get higher than that, they don't go on an upward trajectory, unless there's a big money machine behind them, which is hard to get. Some of the biggest quote unquote rock bands now, the Dirty Honeys, Greta Van Fleet, Struts and stuff, those bands, like Dirty Honey doesn't even have a record label. They don't even have a record deal, but they did it the old school way and, built the following. And I think if you're dedicated enough and if you just love music, I always say, stay into music, stay the fuck out of the business of music, because there really isn't one. Make music and put it out there. And if you can, bring it to the people whenever you can. It is, man, no one's ever said this is easy. Even when, man, I'll tell you what, 30 years ago, I'd say it was easy compared to now, but it was never easy. At least back then there was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If you can get on it, there was some fortunes to be made. Now there isn't. So if you can afford to be a musician, God bless you, keep doing it. But good luck.
Gotcha. So what's coming up for Mr. Farley? What do you got coming up? What's something you want to tell us? Some dates? What's cooking? What's going on for the next 6 months?
Yeah, I leave at the end of the month for 6 weeks with Fozzy. And so we're doing the States, coast to coast. Got a new record coming out in April called called Boombox. And then the summer, I think I'll have some scattered Fozzy dates, but I'll have some, maybe some acoustic Trixter shows, and who knows what that'll bring. I know Eric Martin is going to Europe with Avantasia, so he and I won't be playing this summer. And then the fall, I go back out with Fozzy, I think. And yeah, I mean, from what I hear, it's going to be a pretty busy year from starting the end of this month throughout the rest of the year.
Excellent. So I want to say yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully I'll get some solo shows snuck in there.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I mean, I love the acoustic. The acoustic Trixter is it looks real cool. That sounds like really cool.
Yeah, we did that this weekend for really for the kind of first time, and it was cool revisiting some of those songs, and it was a trip.
Excellent. Well, I want to say thanks so much for taking the time and being open and letting us know about your plug for Subway. I'll keep that in mind. Maybe we can get something out of it, for crying out loud. But I do know, really, honestly, no, all kidding aside, I really appreciate you coming on. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Did.
Yeah, it was good to see you, man. I'm hoping that I can knock on the door one day when you're playing and come say hello, because I would definitely love to see one of the shows, whether you're with Fozzy, Eric, obviously with Steve. That's something I would definitely really dig.
Awesome. Well, I'll be around with all of the above within the next couple of months. So, check the dates out. We're around.
Sounds great. Once again, Grind and Pivot, pivotal moments that change everything. LOUIE Max, Queens, New York, with the man PJ Farley, talking life. Really, solid citizen here, but I think knows where he's going, which is pretty important. You look great, man. God bless. Stay well. Get a little more ink on the other side when you have some time. But I want to say thanks again. Really, no. God bless you. Peace, man.